react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home, begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying, Adrian, defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, 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 yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh.
Hitting the ground running with the 2025 plan and his campaign team behind him, Trump has begun the process of nominating cabinet positions for his second term. His picks are exactly what we've come to expect. People who've shown loyalty and deference to Trump, but have no competence, experience, or even the basic qualifications. Isolationist with no diplomatic experience, Marco Rubio has been nominated for Secretary of State. For the newly created Government Efficiency Bureau, Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk has been nominated, having single-handedly turned Twitter into a fascist, white nationalist monetary sinkhole, and he promises to do roughly the same with the U.S. by cutting the government workforce by 80%. For the Department of Justice, Trump has chosen Matt Gaetz, a significant player in the plot to overturn the 2020 election and still under investigation up until about 20 minutes ago, investigation by the House Judiciary for underage sex trafficking. Mike Huckabee has been named as ambassador to Israel, and Fox and Friends co-host Pete Hegseth has been nominated for Secretary of Defense. With plans to deport all undocumented workers nationwide, abolish the Department of Education, roll back EPA standards, and boost our already record levels of gas and oil production, Trump boasts an enemies list whom he said he will prosecute, including Nancy Pelosi, New York Attorney General Letitia James, former Representative Liz Cheney, New York Judge Arthur Engoron, District Attorney Alvin Bragg, Special Counsel Jack Smith, former FBI Director James Comey, Mark Zuckerberg, Hillary Clinton, and former President Biden, including every single member of the, quote, Biden crime family. This is in time. Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We have with us tonight Commander Lance McMillan, Isandring, and a rather preoccupied prolib. Ethan?
Yes, good talking to you too, President Trump. I've just been nominated FBI director.
Oh, well, actually, that would surprise me. I think you're going to be much more competent than whoever they nominate for FBI.
You know, I'm just so honored.
Yeah, this is a bit of a, and I think somebody had pointed out, and we put this in our Discord, so if you want to check it out on our Discord, there was a great story about, I wanted to say Nixon's victory, and he won in a landslide, and was at that point the most corrupt president that we had ever had. And despite winning in a landslide, despite having a mandate, he obviously suffered some significant consequences. Whether or not Trump ever will, I think remains to be seen. But wow, where to begin? I think we should begin with the nominees. He's nominated, I think now, I have the whole list here, but it looks like about 15 or 16 different cabinet level positions. And he has asked that all of these nominations go through without Senate oversight. Now, here's how that would work. He would do these as a recess appointment, which I'm not into. Obama tried to get Merrick on the Supreme Court through a recess appointment, and the Senate was so upset with that they changed the rules saying that he couldn't actually do recess appointments. So in theory, Trump can't do any recess appointments, and it's unusual for the Senate to give up any of its power. Having said that, there appears to be some leeway, or no, I shouldn't say some leeway. It hasn't been a hard no for him to do recess appointments for these positions. These would be 1 to 2 year appointments, but would not require Senate oversight. A number of these, including Matt Gaetz and a few that we'll get to, may have trouble getting confirmed, but we'll get into that in a minute. So let's start with... Yeah, that FBI background check, you're going to be, yep, you're eminently qualified is all I have to say.
Listen, it was one time, okay? That's all I'll say. It's just the one time.
So let's start with Pete Hegseth, and I want to start with him, even though that's not the largest position. That's one that's easiest to make fun of, but one also where we have sort of the most qualified person here to talk to us about that. Now, Pete Hegseth is best known as a co-host on Fox and Friends. He has been elevated now to presumably Secretary of State if his appointment goes through. Not Secretary of State, sorry, Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, Department of Defense, not Secretary of State.
Yeah, I don't. That's Rubio. What am I thinking? Yeah, at this point, it's just a bunch of clown faces. At any rate,
mixing up such highly qualified individuals.
Fox, one of his co-hosts that remains unidentified. Let me see if I can find this quote here, because this was a spectacular quote. Fox and Friends quote said, or sorry, one of the Fox and Friends co-hosts had reacted to his appointment by saying, "Wait a minute, he's gonna run a company of." No, sorry, he's going to have oversight over 2 million people, considering that that I'm aware of. I mean, the highest he rose, I don't know if he ever had anyone under him in the military. He was in the military, so at least he was, I think, in the reserves, but I know Commander knows more about this than I do. But and it's not 2 million, it's 3 million. But nonetheless, yes, he is now going to have oversight over roughly close to 3 million people. What can you tell us about this guy, Commander?
Honestly, my understanding is the guy's prior military experience was enlisted reserve, and he was discharged under supposedly somewhat dubious conditions. If you've seen his arm, he has white nationalist tattoos all up and down it. So we know which side of the fence he's on, that sire. Yeah, so, you know, having a guy who probably rose as high as E5, maybe, you know, being in charge of the entire U.S. military, at least one wondering.
Well, and he's openly said
E5?
he does.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
I
I
think
was
he's
going to
asking.
say, if he made it,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, if he was E5, hell, I want to put my name in the hat. I made E5, and I did it in 4 years. Well, actually, I did it in 3 years. So, I mean, that's got to say something.
Yeah, he was a major. So just to let you know.
Major. Ooh.
Yep. So now we haven't been able to confirm what tattoos he did have. What I know is that
there are pictures out there of it.
Oh, there are. This is the one that I've seen. That's the Jerusalem Cross, which is an evangelical and or white nationalist,
Right.
depending on who you ask. I think it's.
If you see the actual one on his arm, yeah, it's not really that. It's something a little more obvious.
Oh, well, wow. All right. I wish I should have found. I'm going to go look for that in a minute. So he's never, other than hosting Fox and Friends, he doesn't, and you know, his reasonably brief stint in the military. The last, isn't this normally 4- and 5-star generals, Commander, that take up this position?
No.
Okay.
SecDef is typically a civilian appointee who has had some sort of connection with the defense industrial complex, or perhaps with has authored books on strategic planning and that kind of thing. This guy doesn't have any of that. Those typically people who have had military service, it was quite some time ago, and generally as this guy in reserves. So it's more one of those like W's commission. It looks good on paper, even if you didn't do anything, it still looks good on paper, sort of thing.
So now I know at least one of his positions, he wants women off of frontline combat. He says that they're basically not capable of it. Any other positions? I unfortunately, I mean, I know he's said that he believes that the military, he has said that diversity is the opposite of what the military wants. What the military is about whiunity, and that in order to restore America to the most powerful country in the world, which last I checked.
Anybody who isn't a unifying figure with the appropriate characteristics, you know, male, white, preferably from the South, we'll make you go away. And you have to remember, they've also talked about they are going to put together what they think they call it a warrior board, where they are going to review the records of every flag officer currently serving, and those who are deemed not having appropriate warrior ethos. Leave to your imagination what that means. Probably a measure of, did you vote Republican or donate to the fund? You'll be removed and replaced, which means not only are you pulling those out who you consider potentially disloyal now, it means because any future flag officers coming up for the next 4 years always have to get approved by the president. He can handpick who he wants to get promoted into flag rank.
He has said, quote, this woke shit has got to go. So I assume that is going to be his
remember,
the motto he goes by. Yes.
Yeah. Remember that he has spoken very hostilely regarding General Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs during his tenure, because when BLM protests were going on in DC, he had directed Milley to deploy the military against them and fire on the crowd if they refused to disperse. And Milley said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's an illegal order. That's the kind of thing he's going to be screening out. He wants people that if he says, shoot that man right there, bang, you don't even ask why. You just pull that damn trigger.
So I've heard that inside the Pentagon, they're now very worried about what happens if the upper echelons start issuing, because the military aren't actually allowed to follow illegal orders. And so the question is, what happens if illegal orders start coming down from either him or from some of his subordinates that he puts into his position, and what happens if multiple people are okay with it and you're one of the people who is not? So how do you think this is going to affect morale and people at the Pentagon in general?
I think there's going to be a lot of people that are very upset. I think that what we're looking at is somebody setting in place the situation that should he wish to stage another January 6th style palace coup, there will be nobody in position to oppose it.
All right. I'm going to give one more quote here, if I can find it. Either you're in war fighting and that's it, and that's the only litmus test we care about. You've got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized into this kind of thinking.
Did you just hear a dog whistle? I heard a dog whistle.
I heard a couple of dog whistles.
Yeah.
Before we move on, anyone else have any thoughts? Isandring, Ethan, anything on the Secretary of Defense before we move on?
On 𝐒𝐬𝐜𝐿, I mean, the issue is that this isn't supposed to be normal. What he wants us to is to not feel normal.
Yep.
Because fascism exists through a series of litmus tests that are applied to produce a more and more pure product. And sometimes it's with eugenics, sometimes it's with ideology, sometimes it's with religion, but all fascism does the same. It's a circle, and you're either in it or out of it. And if you're out of it, you're the enemy. Over time, what happens is that the circle has to constrict because you've got all of your enemies on the outside and you've either defeated them or eradicated them. And so you've got to constrict the circle further. And then you've got to constrict the circle further. And then you've got to constrict the circle further. And a combination of things happens. There's at some point, so many people on the outside that are like, why is this tiny majority of fascists ruling the rest of us? And the people, this circle gets so small that it starts to eat up the actual people inside that are competent enough to lead. None of the people appointed so far by Trump, with God damn it, with the exclusion of one, Marco Rubio, he's the only one who's qualified, and qualified. I mean, he's somewhat qualified. He's more qualified than any of the others. You think Tulsi Gabbard knows anything
Very
about
low bar.
Right. You think Gabbard knows anything about running the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence? You think Tulsi Gabbard knows what to do on day one? I'm not just talking about the job. I'm talking about running the organization. These people are CEOs of organizations that have a mission.
He knows who to sell the intelligence to for a profit.
And she's pro-Russian, if I remember correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and pro-Syrian. But do you think Tulsi Gabbard could make intelligent decisions about who should be in charge of signals intelligence and what makes a good person? The person who's in charge of signals intelligence. What are great qualifications for somebody in charge of signals intelligence? Do you think that Tulsi Gabbard could answer that question eloquently? Of course not. Of course she couldn't. And this isn't like, I'm not insulting Tulsi Gabbard's intelligence. I'm saying she's not competent for the position. Neither am I. I wouldn't know what the fuck to do either. Yeah. So it's not, this isn't like, oh, well, I'm talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I'm also talking about the rest of them, right? Running the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense. That's like directing the military itself. It's directing like research and development. It's directing. There's an entire civilian division to the Department of Defense. A gigantic, like half of the Department of Defense is civilian shit.
Yeah, including energy, right? Like the nuclear power plants and
right. This guy is a co-host on a weekend show on Fox News. That's his qualification. To run the Department of Defense. I don't know. I need more to drink. I don't know. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could put it better, but I really can't. All right. So let's move on to Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Talk about having the fox keep track of the house. Holy shit. So aside from the fact that he told Biden to toss out he told Mike Pence to toss out the electors and go with the fake ones. Aside from all of his shenanigans on that day and the video footage of him fleeing on January 6th, he's also he's been investigated alongside a indicted sex trafficker who traffics in underage children. There was an investigation by the House Judiciary into him on this, but that investigation has ended since he resigned a short while ago. He resigned to open up the way for him to work as Attorney General, who is ostensibly responsible for prosecuting crimes on behalf of the United States. This includes multiple charges that have been levied against Trump. I imagine on day one, 2 of those cases are going to be shut down, the 2 federal cases. I imagine any investigation into him, if there's any ongoing, is also going to be shut down. What else do we know about Matt Gaetz, the purported new Attorney General?
I mean, well, he's had multiple DUIs. Multiple House Republicans, current and former, have confirmed that he liked to show them the women that he had sex with. He would show them video just on the House floor. Just show them. If you remember Madison Cawthorn, my former representative, he talked about the Republican Coke orgies that happened in the House. Those were Matt Gates's orgies. Like that, Matt Gates was the one who had all of those. He's
say it like it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I don't listen. I've been to a couple. No, it's not, that's not true. I've been to dozens. But my point is, you know, the guy is he's. And again, this isn't. I don't care about any of this. I wouldn't if he wasn't somebody that was like against LGBTQ people, then I wouldn't bring up the fact that he's pansexual. He's a pansexual man who says that he's, you know, he's got all these family values, but has his private life that's against all of those values. You know, I mean, it's this Republican hypocrisy that has gotten to, as Heather Thomas said, it's a Caligula cabinet. And it's the perfect moniker for all of this. And I love that moniker because it's insane. It's crazy and it's insane. And I don't know why I'm still talking.
Because it's I think we're all processing what we've been seeing today. And I literally sent me one after another. And the last one, I literally said, this has to be a joke. With Gates, I said, no, this is a joke. There is no way it's Gates. I mean, that's just like, if you were to say the worst human being that you could put into Justice Department would be either you found Jimmy Hoffa and resurrected him or Gates. And I still think Gates wins by a little bit over the undead Hoffa.
The first response, like when I said on Blue Sky, I was like, hey, yeah, he's been nominated. The very first response was someone that I know, and she was like, is this a joke? I mean, that's what so this is the first thing that she said. I was like, no, my Hannibal Lecter at FDA thing was a joke. Matt Gates is real.
Well, and since Hannibal Lecter was, according to Trump, such a swell guy, you never know. The fact that he's fictional, it shouldn't stop him from being chief of staff or something like that. I'd like to thank UTV and Ham, who gifted 5 memberships. So thank you very much for that and for your continued support. We really appreciate it. Sinister Porpoise, $2. Gates, the AG pick of sexual offenders everywhere. Yeah, that's a good point.
That may actually be intentional. If you have compromise on them, you help ensure their loyalty.
That's an interesting point.
These are also, like, if you're a foreign adversary, there has never, well, no, that's not true. There was one other time in American history when there was this number of honeypots placed at critical places within the United States administration, and that was the Teapot Conspiracy under Ulysses S. Grant. That's the last time this many openly corrupt people are in the president's cabinet.
The amount of, and Gates has no matter what Trump does, Gates has come out, and it's been like, I've been embarrassed for Gates when he comes out and says, oh no, Trump's doing this right and he's doing this right. And you're sitting there going like, I mean, this guy has either he's completely insane or he's so committed. And I was embarrassed for him because I didn't think would be in this position again. So I was like, he's making himself look the fool for nothing. Well, no, it looks like he made himself look the fool so he could be Attorney General. I have no idea what's going to come of that. We do have your Caligula's cabinet has a competition for top spot in the description of this. Chuck Yammert's $10 super chat. Imagine the cantina bar from Star Wars. That is Trump's cabinet.
Yep, a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, except they were actually qualified for their jobs. They could play music.
True. That's true. That's true. That's a fair point.
So, All right, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, former senator. I don't. Yeah, you said that he was at least marginally qualified.
Marco Rubio, sure.
Yeah, I don't know enough about his background to know.
I mean, he's been a senator for a long time. He's done a lot of meetings with overseas dignitaries and heads of state. You know, he's been at the federal level of the government for 15 years, something like that. I'm not saying that he's qualified to be Secretary of State. I'm saying of all the appointments made, he's the one who's most qualified for the position that he's been appointed to.
Okay, I see what you're saying, because he's actually got government experience and working,
right.
in
some diplomatic experience and stuff. I mean, there's, the Secretary of State is the main diplomat for the United States. You want the nicest, most congenial, person out there who can talk to anybody, listen to anybody. I mean, that's the ideal Secretary of State. Is he that? No, but it's
we can't all be Kissinger.
We can't all be Kissinger. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm out. Bye.
No.
God.
Well, speaking of war crimes, Mike Huckabee is going to be ambassador to Israel. Now, Trump famously decided to declare the Jerusalem the capital of Israel. That, I'm sure, didn't cost any lives. And Trump has already unofficially said, or was it officially, your commander might remember better than I, that basically gloves are off for Netanyahu, and he can do just about whatever he wants. Why Mike Huckabee for Israel? That one, well, I mean, we have a Fox News host who's going to be Secretary of Defense, so I guess Huckabee, at least that one. Some of these people have been on TV, so I guess I get it. He's just like, that guy on Fox News really would make a great Secretary of Defense. But why Huckabee, who does have a program on Fox, I suppose, or did? Anybody have any idea why, the thinking behind that one? Has he said anything about that?
Who knows? He may have donated a bunch of money or stumped for him, whatever.
Well, okay. This is kind of dark, all right? So I'm apologizing in advance. This is just a theory. I can't prove this. We know that the Heritage Foundation is working behind the scenes, advising Trump and Project 2025, blah, blah, blah. Evangelical Christians believe that in order for Jesus to come back, that Israel, all of that whole area has to be destroyed by prophecy. Mike Huckabee said several years ago, you can go find the news article. Palestinians don't exist. That's a quote. It's not me. It's not what I believe. I believe the exact opposite, of course, but that's what he believes. And hey, if I could start a little nuclear war with Iran, maybe I can get my God to come back.
Oh, you're right. He's a Zionist. He's a Christian Zionist. I forgot about that. That's why.
Christian Zionist, yes.
Yes, that's what he is. I forgot. That's it.
Accelerations.
Yeah. So basically Jesus cannot return until there's a war in the Middle East, and the Christian Zionists will do kind of whatever it takes to do that to speed up his return. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, that explains Huckabee. That's you know what? I think I preferred not knowing. I'm sorry I asked that question.
Me too.
Welcome to the show.
Left unknown.
Yeah.
This was going to be a hard show from the beginning.
I have a question. How many years has it been since you had a show get monetized? That's my...
It's not, that's why I'm so thankful for the super chats, because that's the only way we're going to make any money on basically any of.
Curious. Like,
no, I think 2 or 3 times a year we managed to get one monetized, but it's been a little while. It's been a little while. We got
next week. Nick's going to talk plants. It's just going to be a whole strain.
It's just going to be.
Here's my new Monstera. And,
Yeah. Well. Oh dear Lord. Okay, we're going to get to the last one, which actually, well, two last ones. No, Musk, because Musk and Hohmann. Musk was working with somebody else, but I've forgotten who it was, but it wasn't Hohmann.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
So Musk and somebody else essentially in this new Department of Government Efficiency, which, by the way, you know what that spells out. The acronym. Yeah, that's DOGE. The Dogecoin, that's Elon Musk's favorite crypto du jour. That's what he's into, and it's the Department of Government Efficiency. And you'd say, okay, just a coincidence. Except Musk likes these. I mean, the way the way he names his cars, the way it's just like holy. We are living in an Orwellian novel. Except I think the Orwell novels ended better than this. This one seems to be headed. So he has said he's going to cut the federal workforce by 80%. He cut the Twitter workforce by 50% his first day there. We've had this discussion on In Time before, which is, I think, the general consensus of everybody here. He has no intention, nor has he ever had any intention, of actually making a profit off of Twitter or making it into a working business. As insane as he is, he's fucking with it. And he's trying to bolster his own cryptocurrency, and that's where he wants to make money. Stirring up shit on Twitter is a means to an end for that. So, is he going to? Does anybody have any idea what he's going to do, if he's even empowered to do it?
I don't think it's a question of whether they're empowered. They're going to try to do everything. And they will threaten, use, whatever means possible. And worst case, they push it up to a very friendly Supreme Court, which will say, oh, no, they can do that.
Yeah. I mean, everything that Elon outlined that he wanted to do is the stuff that the Government Accountability Office already does. He said we're going to make sure that every bill that passes is transparent online. So, well, it is already. And then he's like, we're going to publish every dollar that the government spends, make sure it's online. And it's like, well, it is already. That's already it's already there. Like, you can already go look at all this stuff. It's not. When I worked at a nonprofit years ago, for about a year, I worked in a completely different department, but my dad was the CEO, and I didn't report directly to him. I was like 7 levels away from him. I did a completely different job in a completely different department. But for those 2 years while he was the CEO, my salary by law had to be public on the internet. So everyone could go just see how much money I made, because it's a way to, make sure that I wasn't, working some low level job for $200,000 or something, which I wasn't. But we already have all these checks and balances built into our system. It's just that they like to claim that we don't. They just claim that we don't have these checks and balances.
Needs something different in MAGA speak.
Right. And so, he's asking for all this stuff that already exists. And he's like, we've got to shine a light on it. Meanwhile, whenever SpaceX submits documents to the government, every single one of them has a disclaimer that says, you can't use FOIA to look at this. Every single time SpaceX puts something into the submits documents to the government. So he doesn't actually believe in this stuff for himself. He believes in it for any kind of program that helps poor people or immigrants. So that's what, remember, their entire thing is they want to do 2 things. They want to get all the brown people that they can, as many brown people as possible. I'm going to get them out of the country, and they want to make it illegal to be a Democrat. Those are the 2 things they want to do over the next 4 years. Can they? I don't know. They're going to try, though. So we'll see.
This reminds me, I was going to show these earlier, but let's see. This is the nominee for Secretary of Defense, and this is him again. This is apparently what he wears on Fox News. think we got another one. And just because I think it's creepy as hell.
Patriotic.
Yeah. And that's Gates. And if that doesn't creep you out, that's his website. That's just a screenshot from his website. That smile is so painted on. I swear to God, it looks like Heath Ledger.
Yeah. Reminds me of Heath Ledger's Joker. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first thing I think of when I see that. It's just like, and that's hit. He voluntarily put that up on his website. Oh, dear Lord. All right, so Michelle Ferguson, $4.99 for the alcohol fund. Thank you very much. I think I frankly owe everybody here the drink of their choice, just to offset the having to discuss any of this. I want to get to two other things. The dissolution of the Department of Education, which for a long time has been.
He appointed, or is appointing, Boebert as his Secretary of Education.
That's
that would be hilarious. Appoint her and then get rid of the department. Well,
I haven't seen that one confirmed yet, but I have seen a couple of people say that it's coming. So,
well, I wonder if you would actually need to have somebody as the head of the department to I guess not necessarily, but it might make it easier if you actually had someone as the head of the department to dissolve the Department of Education. If you dissolve the department, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah.
So if the Department of Education is interesting because I don't know why they've been after it so hard. Most of what all it really does is help minorities, and I hate to. I really don't want to, pigeonhole and say, well, they're just all racist. But I was just like, it's pretty hard to say anything else when it comes to the Department of Education. But that one, it has two major programs. It has a lot of programs, but the two biggest programs that absorb the largest amount of money is Title I and I've forgotten the name of the other one. Let's see. Title, I want to say, IDEA, the IDEA program. So Title I, the idea behind Title I is that in this country, we don't pool all the money and make sure that every district gets the same amount of funding or gets funded appropriate to its need. Instead, districts are typically funded by property taxes in that area. The problem is, in the more economically depressed areas, the tax is insufficient to have a school of any quality whatsoever and or to meet the unique needs of sometimes inner city schools or wherever the school happens to be and may have extra needs. In terms of the wealthy areas, the schools are inundated with money, and obviously it's a lot easier to get a good education if you happen to have been born in a rich area. Title I takes federal money to the tune of about $28 billion a year and apportions it to K through 12 schools that are underfunded by their own communities through no fault of their own. It's just communities where the property taxes are insufficient to pay for those schools. That's all it does, raises the level of education there and provides for school lunches and a few other things for families who can't afford it. Let's see. And this, by the way, only accounts for about 10% of all school funding. 90% is all property taxes and done by districts themselves. The IDEA program provides schools with money to help meet the needs of children with disabilities. That's it. That's all it does. So it is responsible for putting ramps into schools so that children who are using a wheelchair can get access, the same access as everyone else. That's all it does. It guarantees everybody has equal access. Those are the two biggest programs in the Department of Education. Now, if the Department of Education vanished, one misnomer about this is if the Department of Education vanished, those two programs would not instantly vanish. They would still exist. I'm not sure by what means they get destroyed, but it turns out simply eradicating the department doesn't eradicate the programs. I think you actually need an act of Congress to eradicate the programs. They could be defunded, or they could be moved to another. Another department. Although I don't know. I mean, at this point, the Department of Clown Cars may be. I don't know what's coming next. But any thoughts on the Department of Education? Are they going to go after it? Are they going to go after these programs? They've said they're going to do it. It's a talking point. Do you think they're really interested in that or not?
I think they're interested in it to the tune of how they can reduce money going out to communities that they don't like. So I could see them wanting to start cutting stuff. Another thing you need to realize about the Department of Education, there are a lot of unfunded mandates that come down from the Department of Education to local school boards and states. So they will tell you, you must do this, but then don't give you any money to do it. So it starts forcing you, because it's a mandate from above and you must do it, it's taking money from other things to fund these limited type programs. So I think what they're probably looking at is being able to eliminate those programs and thus get rid of a whole class of money that's going to something other than reading, writing, and arithmetic. So English as a second language, for example, would be one that would almost immediately probably go away.
Yep.
Because that doesn't help our people. See what I mean?
And I just got this from Titan. Thank you. It appears to confirm what Ethan was saying earlier. Apparently, the House Ethics Committee was set to vote on releasing, quote, highly damaging information in a report on its investigation into Matt Gaetz. By his resigning, that committee no longer has jurisdiction over him. We don't know whether they're going to release it or not, but it was reportedly highly, quote, again, highly damaging. So my hope obviously is that we find out what it was, but this is according to multiple sources familiar with the probe. It looks like they're not going to hold a vote now on releasing it. They were going to vote on Friday. I don't know if the vote's been canceled, but it's using the past tense committee planned to vote on Friday. I'm not sure if that's deliberate or just the style in which they wrote this. So they've been investigating him since 2021, and we'll see if that information gets out. Enough people, if this has leaked to the public in this way, if Congress doesn't release it, somebody from Congress will see to it that it gets out, because I mean they've already seen to it that this much has gotten out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I've on Blue Sky, people are like, "Oh, it's never going to get out. It's never going to get out." Well, here's the thing: a whole bunch of people in the House have seen it, who are on the ethics committee, not just committee members, but their aides who helped them draft whatever parts of the report they were responsible for, that sort of thing. So it's gonna come out. I have bad news for you. It's gonna come out one way or another. Well, not bad news for you. Good news for you. It'll come out. Bad news for Gaetz, I guess. I think this, honestly, I think it's two things. I think for whatever reason, Trump wanted to do Gaetz a solid. I don't know why, but apparently he wanted to. And Gaetz doesn't really think this is going to hurt him in the long run, and he can go do a podcast or be on Fox News or whatever. I mean, the Republicans won't care that he had sex with underage women. They won't care.
Well, that can't be true. I mean, they went after anybody who knew Epstein. I mean, anybody who was associated with all the liberals that may have been associated with any kind of scandal like that. They went after them, Ethan. I don't know if you remember that, but they really did go after him pretty hard.
Oh, absolutely. They did.
What?
Yeah. Let's list them all. They went after, the first one they went after was, It's a long list. So I'm just.
It's a long list, yeah.
From the tip of your tongue.
It's classified.
It's classified, right. But they're getting to any day, tomorrow, probably.
With our new Secretary of Intelligence, it won't be classified all that much longer, I'm sure.
I said on Blue Sky earlier, I said, guys, if there are crashed alien vehicles, the great news about Tulsi Gabbard being in charge of DNI is we're going to know.
We're gonna You think I really did. I gotta say, I loved Rudy. I love Rudy Giuliani. It's just like, okay, you gotta hide the DNA evidence. Don't worry, just hide it. And wait, who's this? The New York Times. Oh, sorry, wrong number. Just like the number of times he did that shit. It's just insane. I mean,
and this is why you don't day drink over the age of 75. Okay, you have a cutoff, man.
Oh God. $10 from Chuck Yammertz. The White House is going to smear Megan's Law website now, SMH. It's going to appear, on Megan's Law. Yeah, I know. Oh God. Yeah.
I said that same joke on Blue Sky earlier, so.
Oh, okay.
So Chuck Yammertz and we're here.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, and Chuck gave me $10, whereas you didn't. So I'm going to laugh when Chuck says it.
I would never give you $10. I know what you do with it.
That was once, and our friend, but that still counts as one time.
Sure.
All right. So moving on. What's going to happen with undocumented workers and or immigrants in general? We know Elon Musk has been given, actually, I think, some authority to deal with that, as well as, and I've forgotten the other guy, but here's the other thing. Somebody said this, and I thought this was really interesting, which was for somebody who seems to say that he has nothing to do with Project 2025, if you were to implement that project, the ideologies of the people that have now been nominated into each of these positions are the absolute perfect ideologies that you would have to implement 2025. So for someone who's got nothing to do with it, he has just taken his first very large step towards implementing it. He said he's going to deport every undocumented worker in the United States. We've had this discussion before, but I want to have it one more time here, which is, that's a good, we haven't heard from Isandring in a little while. He's keeping his head down. Don't know why. Isandring, you still there? I will check and see if he's still there. We may have lost him. I don't know.
Sorry, I went through several tunnels and got blown away, and now I'm trying to save the house. We're being attacked by gremlins. Okay. I am listening, though.
Okay, well, that's it. I was worried that you had been appointed Secretary of Transportation, but you're back, so we get to keep you at least for a little while longer. So, Commander, any thoughts on? I mean, he can't deport all of these people. He can round them up.
Let's stop and think about something.
Okay.
How many people are we talking about, potentially? I've heard estimates between 20 to 25 million. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You can't just load them all on buses overnight and get them out of the country. That isn't going to happen. So you have to find some way to have a holding facility as you process these people. Now, federal prison system is run by federal government, but the INS detention facilities are all privatized.
Oh, dear Lord.
So suddenly we have several million people who effectively have no rights in facilities where they can be forced to work for nothing. Does this sound a little like certain places that existed in Germany in the 30s and 40s? I'm just wondering. It sounds familiar to anybody.
Doesn't it sound familiar? Yeah.
You know, and you don't want to accelerate getting rid of them too quickly because there's all this free labor. And, we're talking about people who are privatizing, so private companies. It's good for the economy. Who cares morality? That's for liberals.
Yeah. So for everyone who doesn't know, I do retirement for a living. Don't worry, I won't bore you with it. Lots of conversations in the finance community right now, because we're all, the thing is that you have to be somewhat of a pragmatist to work in finance. And you just have to look at it with just your pragmatist eyes and say, okay, if I have money right now, where do I put that money next year to make more money? And you detach it from morals, because you have to, because it's the only way that you can see where the market's going to go, to understand how to invest. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it. A lot of the conversations are surrounding private prisons and what might happen. So the federal government does own, and it depends on the state, but there are some states where the federal government will owns beds at local and state jails. For instance, if the FBI arrested you and you're in Virginia and they need to get you to California to prosecute you, well, they've got to store you somewhere as they transport you. So there are some places where they'll own one bed at a county jail. And when the county jail is using it, they basically pay rent to the federal government when the federal government isn't using it. That's a horrible simplification, but it's just the easy way to explain it. So there are single beds, or maybe half of a cell block, that sort of thing, in different prisons in different places.
There ain't 20 million beds.
Not even, nowhere near 20 million. We're talking maybe a few thousand across the United States. Very, 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 very small. So there was this conversation that we were having on Reddit the other day about, will they just spin up facilities? Well, you can't just spin up a prison facility. Even if you cut all of the red tape, and you just said, start building as soon as you can get the materials over there and just start building a prison, it's 5 years on average once you start construction.
They're not prisons, they're detention facilities.
But any kind of
the
facility
same rules don't apply, and I mean that. I've been to the detention facility they have in the city near where I live, and that's literally a warehouse with a bunch of cots.
Sure. What my point is, the whole idea is you have to get this done before Trump's term is up, right? You have to try to do this within 4 years.
Actually, you have to try to do it within 2, but yeah, please continue.
Or even 2. But building new facilities, new detention facilities on that scale, takes time, because you not only have to get the materials, you've got to get the labor, you've got to get it built to certain standards, so that it can hold people, so people can't just escape. You've then got to staff it with police or whoever you're going to use to... Who are you going to use to...
Privatized.
But who? That's
you still need to spin it up. You still need to spin it up.
Run those facilities.
Right.
All they have to do is say, hey, we offer you $20 an hour to work here.
Sure, absolutely.
People have qualifications in the training for those jobs.
Absolutely, absolutely. My point is that all of this from our, when we're just looking at this pragmatist, who is the company out there that has the ability to where can we get the material? You have to look at it super pragmatist, if they're going to do this, they're going to use this company for building, they're going to use J.D. Horton for building materials, and it's going to get over to, I forget the name of the prison company, and that company is going to manage this part. And so, you just do how would they do this if they did this? I don't see any reasonable way that they could build, secure, staff those facilities, and then implement the actual getting of people and taking them to these facilities in a 2-year timeline that makes any sense. So what I think that they're more likely to do, I don't think that they'll use the private prison system, because there's too many moving parts, and there's too many people pulling, and profit that needs to be made, and people that have to. I don't think that they would go that route. I think
you have a lot more confidence in the system than I do. All I see is this is a great way to pay back campaign donors.
Okay, but see, so here's an easier way to do it. What if instead you just use states where the governor is friendly to you, and you used their National Guard facilities and personnel to help you instead.
He suggested that. I forgot.
So that's why I'm thinking you would more likely use that paired with like some FEMA personnel or maybe some military contractors, that sort of thing. And you would spin it up that way instead of involving the private sector, because the private sector, remember, the private sector also reports to shareholders in a lot of these cases, right? So then you've got 10Ks you've got to file, you've got 10Qs you've got to file. All these are public auditable statements. If you can keep it within the realm of the military or the National Guard, those structures, you don't have any of that stuff to worry about. And I think you can also make it happen faster because you get to direct some of that red tape. So if it were me, and again, I'm just looking at
argument there.
I'm just looking at
hold on. I want
Guard.
Sure.
They have to be federalized for that.
Yes.
So that money has 100%. To come out of the federal budget.
100%. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I want to hear Ethan's wrap up, because I think he was going to make the point.
I'm just saying, I think when I look at it with my pragmatist eyes of finance, I don't see a way that you could do it quick enough through the private sector. I don't think that is the path they're going to use. Because there's too many moving parts. You've got too many different companies that would have to work together in tandem in order to make this happen. And then they've got to make all these public reports that the shareholders are going to pour over and the market's going to pour over. And if you can keep it to the National Guard and the military and have them handle it, which I know it violates the Posse Comitatus Act. 100%, totally agree. Like, I don't know how you get around the Posse Comitatus Act. Maybe you just ignore it. Well, I literally don't know.
Well, the question is whether or not SCOTUS would get on board with it or not. But he's already said that he was going to use National Guard to assist in police actions. He said that 2 days ago. Trump said that. So if he's willing to do that, then Posse Comitatus, either he probably has no idea what the hell it means, but in one way or another, somebody has told him we can get around that already. He already has a way of getting around that in his view. Whether or not it's going to work, I don't know. But
he thinks he does.
Yeah,
he thinks he does.
I don't know.
Would Posse Comitatus apply to? I forget how it's worded. Is it worded that they can't be deployed within the United States or can't be deployed against U.S. citizens? Because what if you argue, okay, these are illegal immigrants that pose a threat, and we're deploying them against them within the United States? Would Posse Comitatus still apply?
I think that the way that they tries to get
around Comitatus is easy. You just have the state governors pay the bill. The trouble is that means that's money going out of their budgets for other projects that they want to run. So then you have to find some creative financing way to get federal dollars to pay for without activating Title 10.
Well,
that happens fairly routinely.
The Department of Education has $28 billion to spare. What were you going to say, Isandring?
Oh, I said another one of the directions that he's trending to try and get around that would be to simply declare them invaders from foreign countries, and he could deploy the military to round them up to protect the homeland. I don't know that would fly, though. I'm not sure that would go through the courts.
Well, it would be up to the Supreme Court ultimately. I mean, either way would eventually get down to them, and I have some idea of where they'd probably land.
By the time it got to the Supreme Court, though, most of these actions would be open. One quick response about building. This is one of the areas where I'm like, I'm from the conservative side, but I have a lot of problems with what a lot of right-wing people are saying about this. I absolutely agree to that we need to completely secure the border. I mean, I don't care if you have to put the military on the border, elbow to elbow to secure that. Stop digging the hole. Stop letting water pour into the country. Now, once that's done, I'm perfectly willing to sit down and discuss what do we do with the people that are here, because I mean, I don't know which number to believe, because Trump keeps saying 20-something million. Other sources keep saying 10 million. But even if it's just 10 million, the prison population is somewhere between 1.8 and 2.2 million. So I kind of average that at 2 million. That's all of the prisons in all of the country. Now, I will say that you would be surprised at how fast things can get built. I watched an enormous, like 4-acre large Amazon distribution center with full interior racks and routing and automation and all of that stuff was built in 8 months from the time they actually got the equipment on site, got the approval to start, to the time they were opening it was 8 months. And that's got hundreds of contractors and subcontractors involved in the building of that. So we can build shit really, really fast. It's all a matter of how much money are you going to throw at the problem. And I don't know how much money he would have to throw at the problem. The federal government's broke. So I get really annoyed when all of the people on my side of the aisle keep saying, no, we need to just deport them all. And I'm like, okay, well, anybody who breaks the law, I would agree with you. They're already in custody. Ship them out if you can get them to go someplace. I mean, Mexico may try and deny entry, but we need to get rid of them at least. That's pretty easy. Everybody else, I don't see how you plausibly do this without creating a huge humanitarian crisis and public backlash against the actions that would be required to actually try and do this. It would cost an enormous amount of money to try and do it in any kind of quick time frame. And you run afoul of several different possible scenarios where what you're doing is illegal. So I don't like the whole just deport them. And I'm hearing that so often. Just nope, round them all up and send them all out. They can go back to their own countries. They can apply for legal citizenship there. I don't see how you do it. So I'm like, we need to figure out
countries are going to accept them in the first place.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's lots of solutions to that. I mean, they're just none of them are pretty. And that's the whole thing that I'm trying to point out to people on my side is like, okay, to do what you want him to do, especially in the 4 years he has to do it. We're going to start loading up C-130, hand them a bed sheet and kick them out the back and say, I hope you make it to the bottom, somewhere over the middle of Mexico. That's in order to deport that many people that quickly. That's what you would have to do. So not that specifically, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but those are the kinds of actions.
A lot of MAGAs would be just peachy pleased with that.
Yeah, there's a few who've already.
There are some very right-wing people who don't give a crap what happens to them. Just get them out of the country. And I'm sitting here. It's like, well, I don't want to murder a whole bunch of them. But one of the two things I think we need to do absolutely positively is completely secure, like an iron grip on our southern border. And then we need to put out the propaganda, the announcements, the information, I don't care what you want to call it, that nobody is going to be allowed to cross the border illegally. Asylum seekers will be allowed to fill out their forms, and then they will have to return to Mexico, and that we don't really give a crap where, but you cannot cross the border. We'll get your contact information and give you a few months or 3 to 6 months, however long it takes for your application to work its way through. Then we'll give you a call and let you know if you're even being considered, that you qualify for asylum. Now what we actually do with some of the people who show up at the border, because I can see unattended minors showing up at the border, I'm not going to just kick them back into Mexico, especially, you have a 5-year-old show up. And I don't want to kick those people back across the border because then, the drug cartels grab a hold of them. And that's one of the reasons why I want to completely seal the borders, because we don't know what's coming across. And that bugs me. So once we get that news out there, we need to stop people from trying to gather into big caravans and storm the border to get across. Like I said, we don't actually have to, what we actually do with the people that show up is an entirely different story, but we should put out very publicly that we're going to force you back into Mexico. We need to be in negotiations with Mexico to get them to stop these people from crossing their own southern border, because they don't seem to be doing a whole lot to stop that either. So, those are the things I can be like, okay, let's do that right away. Now, I want to get a group of people together to figure out, what do we do with these people? There's going to have to be some sort of pathway to citizenship, because if you say no, we're just deporting everybody, you're just going to create a huge underground population of people who are essentially slaves. And, we don't want to have that happen in the United States either. So it's like we've got to come up with a better solution. And none of the solutions that most of the more extreme of the left and the right seem to be plausible in any way, shape, or form.
So, yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, at a minimum, it seems like we all agree that deporting them is not a realistic possibility. Regardless of what side you're on, there's no way to round up that many people and deport them to countries, most of whom aren't going to take them back. Now, unless you resort to, as you said earlier, really extreme measures like, Pinochet-level deportations. I was going to say that was funny, but considering that that's probably what somebody's thinking about right now, that's at any rate. Yeah.
Can I respond to a couple of things that Isandring said real quick?
Please.
So first of all, I don't, the southern border is extremely long. I don't know that if every American alive stood at the southern border and linked arms, if that would be long enough to go across the entire southern border. And so our military would definitely not be big enough. The biggest problem that we have at the southern border is that so much of it is so remote and so hard to travel that when somebody is really, really, really determined to get here because they're escaping rape gangs or drug cartels, that sort of thing, they're going to get here. And, outside of laying a minefield, I don't know how you would stop people from just crossing in the middle of the deserts down there. One of the big things that we tried to do was pass a comprehensive border bill earlier this year that would have added tons of new agents, Border Patrol agents, new detection equipment, all kinds of technology, resources. And of course, Donald Trump said no. And so then it didn't pass. The other thing is that there's a lot of people that are here. I have a very good friend. She is DACA. She's now 24. She came here. She was like 6 months old when her parents brought her here. She's a licensed real estate agent. She owns 2 Airbnb properties, rental properties, along with her own home. She's a very successful young woman. I admire her a lot. She's a really great person. Those are the kinds of people that they want gone, right? She's not a citizen. She's just here under the DACA thing, but she's been here now for 23 and a half years. And she pays her taxes. I mean, she's a licensed real estate agent. I mean, she had to pass, criminal background checks. She's nothing. This is the only life she's ever known. And there's a lot of people on the right that are like, oh no, you've got to leave and come back. And it's like, well, like the people that have been here for decades that grew up here as children, the dreamers, as Obama called them, I see no reason that we would make them leave. Like we should just give them amnesty like Reagan wanted to. And like, if you've been here paying taxes and working, especially if you're like licensed in some sort of trade or something, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want them to be citizens. It makes sense. They're a productive part of our society.
You're not thinking like an ideologue.
I know. Sure. Anybody that's a criminal, yeah, sure, go. There's no way there's 10 million. That's no offense. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at the number. It's nowhere near 10 million. I don't even think it's 2 million. I have in my life worked at several nonprofits where we did censuses of local homeless populations, which included local undocumented populations. There's no way there's 2 million undocumented immigrants. I think the number's maybe half that, maybe. And the other thing is, you talked about, that it would be very sad if there was some sort of like underground slavery system. Well, that does exist, and it is made up mostly of documented immigrants, and it's the reason why we have so much food in our grocery stores, because they do basically all of the agricultural work in this country is done by people who are effectively slaves who are undocumented from other countries. You may not like hearing that. I don't really like hearing that, but it's true, and it's the reason why your eggs are only $2.99 and not like $9.99. Deporting all of these people will pull a pin from the bottom of our economy, and it will make the Great Depression look like Woodstock. To say that it will destroy our economy is an understatement. It will take a flamethrower to your bank account. Banks will fail. But I work in finance. I literally know what I'm talking about. Banks will fail. The market will. I don't know if the government's going to like come to your house and just take whatever cash you have. I don't really know how bad it'll get. But it will be a disaster. It will be biblical. And that is what they want. Musk has promised that what he and Trump are going to do is going to hurt you economically. They weren't lying. You are going to get hurt economically over the next 16 or so months as they do whatever they're going to do. And that's what they want, because they want you to go out in the streets and get violent so that they can impose martial law on you. So I don't know how they're going to do all of this. I just know that they're going to do it. And the cruelty is the point. They're out to hurt you. And they're going to accomplish that. And the only thing you can do is try to fight back, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to drink more.
As Trump said, if you vote for me, you'll never need to vote again.
That's what he said. He's right.
Well, yeah, ostensibly, though, he was talking to the Catholics, but he's probably, everybody falls under that one. I do want to just mention, because I know the quote to which you're referring, and that's exactly what Musk said in his defense of it, was what sort of, I think he said something along the lines of, medicine, so he actually suggested if it doesn't hurt you, it's not good for you. Anything that's good for you hurts first, and we're going to hurt this country, and we're going to hurt this country badly. Don't worry, that's what's going to make it better. And
the other thing he wants to do is replace the U.S. dollar with crypto, which that makes me want to drink more. That's a bad idea.
well,
you and I are in 100% agreement on that.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
Well, between that and the modern monetary policyists, although I'll admit Musk is worse, but not by much. Modern monetary, you could just spend your way out of anything. It's like, okay. Or not spend your way, sorry, print your way out of anything.
Yeah, when you're the richest man in the world, sure, yeah, pretty easy.
And when it comes to the straight up principle of the idea, and you and I had talked about this, Nick, and I think we even did a show on this, was being principled versus being pragmatist. And I'm struggling quite a lot with that, because there's some things that I'm like, yeah, in principle, this is a good principle, in my opinion. But when you look at the actual pragmatic effects of what will actually happen if you try to do this, I'm running into some of the same issues when people are like, oh, well, you want to change hours of service for the trucking industry. Well, the whole trucking industry needs to go on strike for a week. And it's like, you have not thought that through.
Nope.
Because if you really had, you would not be suggesting that. That is not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. And I feel the exact same way about trying to mass deport all of the people who are here illegally. From a principled point of view, I can stand back because I don't know these people personally. There are lots and lots of examples of people who came here illegally and who are being very productive and being very positive in the communities. I live in Whatcom County in Washington, and it's a very agricultural county. I see a lot of immigrant people out here working, and I've never had any problems with them. I don't know any of them personally, so it's very easy for me to stand back and say, well, they broke the law to come here. If they want to come here, then yeah, they should be going back home. They should do it the right way and then let them in. There is no possible way that could be done in a productive manner or a positive manner. I don't see it. So, I've already said, okay, this is very similar to the people who are claiming that we should just shut the trucking industry down. You haven't thought this through. You can't do this. This is not going to work out the way that you think it is. So now I actually want to sit down with people and I want to go, what do we actually do? I think that there's some fundamental things I think that we could agree on and start with. People who are committing felonies, who are here illegally, ought to be deported immediately. Don't even send them to trial, just deport them. And then with all of the other people, we need to figure out a path where we're not trying to round them all up and send them out, because that is going to end very, very poorly.
But then who picks the food? Everybody. I mean, that's my problem. Like if that's your, like, okay, people are here legally, you have to be, then who's going to pick your tomatoes? And
Yeah, no, but he's saying outside of people who committed felonies, get rid of them. Everybody else, there has to be a path
So
towards
not
citizenship.
the felony of being here legally, like if they murdered someone.
Is that a felony? Okay, I didn't. Yeah,
I don't know. That's what I was asking.
I don't believe crossing the border illegally is a felony. I think it's a class 3 misdemeanor.
It is. Trump reclassified it. They did.
Oh, Trump. Okay. Oh, that was nice of them.
They reclassified it. Well, okay. Yes. Other than that crime, yes. I'm talking about people, doing violent crime.
Okay. Sure.
But everybody else, we're going to have to find some way of legalizing all of these people, and we can't just deport them. It's like, even if you want to stand on principle and say, no, this is a principled approach and we should do it regardless of the consequence because it's a principled. I'm like, okay, this is where my principles run into just plain common sense. What are the consequences of this action going to be? Because I don't think you've thought of that, and that they're going to be some pretty damn catastrophic consequences if you actually try to do this. So we can't do it this way. We're going to have to figure out a good way of integrating all of these people who are here illegally to give them legal status, and allow them to continue their lives. We're going to have to.
Let me ask you a quick question, Isandring. Do you think that that's true, that Trump hasn't thought about it? Let's assume for a second that Trump knew the consequences of deporting everybody. And do you think he would decide to do it anyway?
Possibly. I don't know him well enough to know if he would be that actually evil. I know everybody's saying how evil he is, and I'm not entirely sure that that's his motivating factor, is just that he wants to twirl his mustache and be evil.
Just indifferent.
Yeah, indifference. Yeah, I do believe indifference. I think that he would absolutely talk it up and do a big game, but I'm not expecting, personally, I'm not expecting a huge effort to deport the supposed millions of undocumented people. I think that this is something to gin up his base. I think it's something to get him popularity because, it resonates with a large number of the American people. So, and that includes some Hispanics as well. So I think that this is more of a talking point. I think it's going to fizzle out. I do not believe that there's going to be mass deportations because I don't think that he can do it. Just logistically, I don't think that he'll be able to accomplish it. And I think that if he actually tries, and if he actually does try, I'll be right there with you going, oh my God, this is absolutely terrible. I think that he will very quickly, when he sees the repercussions of actually trying to do this and the negative popular opinion backlash that's going to hit him, I think he'll change his mind real fast, because one of the things I think he does deeply care about is his adoration. He doesn't want to do something that's going to piss even his own base off. And I think that the kinds of actions that would have to be taken in order to carry out what he claims he's going to do would alienate even most of his own base. Maybe not the far right extremists. They may be cheering him on to do this, but the vast majority of Americans are going to have a very negative backlash against him for that, and I think he does care about that.
His cabinet won't be mad. No, I agree.
But that's what I was about to. So to wrap this up to where we were, and then to start to wind this down, I think you're right that a number of conservatives might be upset at a humanitarian crisis. I don't think anybody that I saw on his cabinet would be one of them. So the people that he's loading into positions of power are ones that I think wouldn't think twice about him doing that, and would empower him to do that if he so chose. He may or may not choose. My concern isn't so much that it's not possible, it's that he attempts to do it and creates a humanitarian crisis either way, either just by holding on to them, or as Lance had suggested, as however many he's able to round up, using them as slave labor or doing some other such thing. He'll botch it, whatever he tries to do. I don't think, he's going to botch it either way. But I unfortunately am strongly of the opinion that he's going to try something, because if he doesn't, it's going to be pretty obvious. And most of the people that he's put up there are of a similar mindset. If he didn't want to do it, he's picked the wrong cabinet. So what I'd like to do is give everybody some final thoughts. I'd like to start with Commander McMillan. Any final thoughts? It's been a busy week. He has hit the ground running, and he's clearly prepared to make some changes. What are your thoughts?
I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. I think wait for a couple of months and just see how bad it's really going to get.
Isandring, any final thoughts?
I guess my final thoughts is I implore especially people on the right to deeply analyze the consequences of what you claim you want to have happen, because I don't think that it's going to go the way you think it's going to go.
Isandring, Ethan, any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah. There's already a lot of people talking about a general strike. For anyone who doesn't know, that means you don't go to work, you don't buy anything, you don't do anything. And you need to start organizing now. It means saving every single penny you can. It means checking in with loved ones, making sure that if a general strike is called, you all have the resources to make it through. And if one is called, then we all need to participate, because it may be the only way to stop horrors. If horrors begin, is the rest of us saying, absolutely not, and we refuse to participate in the society. You know, I sincerely hope that they try, things get bad, and they back off. But there are some real extremists that are being given the levers of power, and the keys to the nuclear codes. They've already talked about a purge of generals. I do believe, and the commander could probably correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that many of the NCO class of the military would comply with illegal orders and order their personnel out to do things that are against the American people.
One hopes.
One hopes. I mean, there's going to be some NCOs that would, but I don't think, on the whole, I don't think that the NCO class of the military is. I just don't believe they're all sadists. I don't know. And the military, remember, is just made of people. Some of them are black and brown and gay and trans and, marginalized people that just
But
also
if
serve their
we
country.
started a purge at the highest level, how long before it gets down?
And then what does the military
NCO
look like?
level?
Right. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of unknowns. That's why I'm saying prepare for a general strike, because it might be the only way to stop things if they get bad. And that may not even work. I don't know. Nobody knows.
Yep.
We'll see. I don't know. I'm going to have more drugs and stuff.
So before we go, I do want to say a couple of quick things. First of all, his name is Ethan ProLib. He's got a channel. He's about to tell you where it is. We're also going to drop it in the link. There's actually a couple of channels that he does, but he has either co-hosted, guested on In Time, probably 20, 25 times at least. We love having him on. We've been down for a little while, as you know. He's also
count
been
my
down.
Tattoos.
Yeah, he's been down for a little while. Count the scars. But he's been literally for the last 4 or 5 years we've had him around. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the link. We're going to put it in the link. We're going to put it in the live chat, and he's going to tell you about what he does and where you can find him. But he comes with our recommendation. That's why he's been on so many times. Please go check him out. Ethan, where can they find you?
I'm at Progressive Liberal. I know that's shocking, right? And weirdly, I know this is going to come as a shock too. Talk a lot of politics from a leftist perspective. Weird. I know. Totally unexpected. You can't find me on Twitter anymore because I nuked it today, but you can find me on Blue Sky at the same place, at prolibshow.bsky.social. Come join us on Blue Sky. We passed 15 million today, and it's great. And and then also on TikTok at ProLibShow. You can find me on TikTok there, and but if you follow me on YouTube, you see all the stuff that I do on TikTok because I do it in both places. I do a show with Kitty the Atheist Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern called The ProLib Show. I know it's weird, right? None of this stuff lines up at all. And we last night we talked about math and how I'm always right whenever I do math.
He hasn't known you very long, has she? Just saying. All right. Well, so please go.
Strangely, she didn't agree with me. I don't know how she got this idea.
Well, I don't know why that would be.
Right, but you know.
So, and we already have his YouTube in the description, but we'll add his Blue Sky in the description too, so that you guys can get that. So thank you for coming. And I would like to also say, we're going to have, I think, in the future, some difficult shows. We've done it before. In fact, Ethan was doing overtime with us when we did all the Black Lives Matter, and that we had some tough ones there, and that's how come he knows about our. In fact, actually, I think we actually saw the Rittenhouse live. We saw that happen. And we're covering that one live. I think you were with me on that one. It took me a few weeks to realize that was the same show. But anyways, so we have good ones, we have bad ones. I appreciate everybody's time and patience with going over some difficult stuff, especially the panel here and the those of you watching. In one of the things that I've said, I'm going to reiterate what Commander often says about voting. In 2 years, we will have a chance to retake the House, and if we do that, that slows everything they do down. Everything they do down, we can't stop it because
flip the Senate. There's a lot of Senate seats up in 2 years too. So.
That's true too. So if we could do if we could do both of those, we could probably bring them to a complete standstill. Everything else, and then just tie him up in the courts for the rest of the time. He's really got 2 years. The clock is ticking, and it's going to be tough on everybody. I know Ethan's going to cover it a lot. We're going to cover it a lot, and. I think Ethan just gave some great advice, and if everybody's there for each other and does their best to stick together with it, I think we're going to be okay. But it's scary times for everybody. Yeah.
There's a cabinet post we should be watching for very, very closely.
Yes, sir.
Chairman of the Federal Elections Committee.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because if his prophetic statement that you won't need to vote again comes true, that will be where we start to see acts that push us in that direction.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. That's you're absolutely right.
I'm definitely a glass half empty and leaking badly.
I hope that wasn't your motto when you were on ship. But at any rate. We will be on tomorrow for Downtime. That's Lance and I, usually just shooting the shit. Ethan, if you are free, I don't remember if you said that's when you do your other show, but if you're free and want to join us, 8 p.m. Eastern, it's Downtime is just shooting the shit off the, we don't, whatever we're going to talk about, please.
I will try. I'm not sure right now, but I will try.
All right. So, perfect. Otherwise, Lance and I will talk our favorite movies or some shit. I don't know. Thank you all once again. We
anything
did miss
but this, please God.
RCT did do 149 Australian with a banana. Thank you for that. And 100 pesos. There is a lot of undocumented Mexicans that own businesses and pay taxes since quite some time and have American descendants. How will that be managed? Greetings from and I've seen that. I know an Indian family whose kids were American. Both of them had PhDs in biochemistry, and in where I live, the parents were deported. But the kids were in middle school and high school, so the kids had to go with them, even though the kids were American, even though the kids were getting an education, and both the parents were using advanced PhDs in, one was in biochemistry, and I forget what the other one was, and they were using them. And there was a tax issue or something, and they said, no, you got to go out while we resolve it, and then you can come back. It's like, oh my God, they lost everything. So, and when you think of between internment camp, the Japanese internment camps, and we have a history of not really caring how much of a life you've built here, which is not the only history we have, but it is one of the histories we have. Thank you all for joining us, and again, please check out ProLib, and we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern for Downtime. Have a good night all.